igama Mr Mthembu tutor in geography. So today we are going to be doing climate and weather. Under climate and weather, we'll be doing a mid-latitude cyclone together with a tropical cyclone. So we're calling a mid-latitude cyclone. So you learners must know if the world pressure belt so that you can easily and better understand the mid-latitude cyclone as well as a tropical cyclone, just to find out where exactly does it take place. Okay, it's calling a mid-latitude cyclone here. So i-mid-latitude cyclone grade 12 inamanye amagama-ke ebizwa ngawo, like temperate cyclones, extratropical cyclones, frontal depression, or wave cyclones. So these are low pressure weather systems that occur in the middle latitude of the Earth, usually between 30 degrees and 60 degrees latitude, both north and south. So basically grade 12 lamele into yazi mele wazi ukuthi nje it occurs between 30 degrees and 60 degrees in mid-latitude cyclone. And then also this is a system made up of cold front as well as a warm front. So you will see later on when we're introducing you to stages of a tropical cyclone, and then you will clearly see how is it made up of a cold front as well as a warm front. So the cold fronts reach and affect South Africa mostly in winter when the high pressure belts are in their northerly position. So sizobona nje lokho nje in a short while futhi. Cold front affects South Africa in winter, bringing rainfall. Those areas iy'ndawo ezi-affectekayo-ke when the mid-latitude cyclone comes, Western Cape, especially Cape Town, because Cape Town is the edge of South Africa. Western Cape receives rainfall, winter rainfalls. So the warm front is bent towards or southwards away from South Africa and does not affect South Africa. So if I'm a mid-latitude cyclone ehamba with three or more, of them, these are known as family of cyclones. So kumele ehlangana. Sometimes ingahlangana, sometimes ingangahlangana, but if ehamba nje ewu-2 or 3, and then we call them families, tropical mid-latitude cyclone families. So the entire system, which is a mid-latitude cyclone, is moves from west to east and is driven by ama-westerlies. Map engikubekele wona grade 12. These are synoptic weather maps. As you can see right here, I have a summer synoptic weather map as well as a winter synoptic weather map. So you wanna see and you wanna try and find out during winter kwenzakalani and during summer kwenzakalani, position of a mid-latitude cyclone isuke. Okay, qale ngesummer grade 12. Ngicela ubheke i-position ye-ITCZ. I-ITCZ, remember, it moves with the apparent migration of the sun. If kushisa ngoba said summer, so i-ITCZ izokwehla iye lapha eSouth Africa because it's summer and then it's hot. And then you can see the actual area, which is the interior of South Africa, is dominated by a low pressure cell. And then if you look at the two anticyclones, the South Atlantic high pressure as well as the South Indian high pressure, they are situated below manje awasekho lapha phezulu, awasekho lapha phezulu. And then also there's an absence of Kalahari high pressure. And then if you notice down here on a cold front, which goes together with a mid-latitude cyclone, you will notice that it has moved southwards. So all these things here, they actually evidence to show which this is a summer season or summer synoptic weather map. And then on the other side, we have a winter synoptic weather map. Look at the position of the ITCZ, it has migrated northwards. And then if you look at the position of the Kalahari, it's now in the interior. And then basically lama anticyclones, they have actually moved further up. So they have moved further north with two. The South Indian high pressure as well as the South Atlantic high pressure, both of them have moved up. Only this one here has actually moved down here. So they are almost aligned. So acishe elokulayini owodwa. And then also if you look at the cold front has actually entered the interior. And then we've said ekuqaleni i-mid-latitude cyclone affects Cape Town, especially the Western Cape. Western Cape province. So it affects it during the winter. That is why the Western Cape, especially Cape Town, is receiving rainfall during the winter season. Let's look at the conditions necessary for the formation of a mid-latitude cyclone. It forms at the polar front, which I'm going to show you just now, with where exactly a polar front is found on my world pressure bands. So also you need warm, moist air from the subtropical high pressure that will actually meet with cold air, cold, dry air from the polar high pressure at the polar front. Remember, these two parcels of air, they meet, but they do not mix. So these MSs, they blow past each other in opposite direction. Polar cell ILA west because they are driven by easterlies, and then westerlies as we east because they are driven by westerlies. So also you need a disturbance along the polar front, which will cause unstable air, resulting in a low pressure. Remember, unstable air goes with the low pressure, and then that air will actually rise because it's unstable. So all of this will result in circulation of air. And then also these are conditions for formation, as I've said before. I will show you where exactly to emit latitude cyclone occurs or takes place. It takes place here between these latitudes, 30 degrees as well as 60 degrees. So these are two parcels of air with moisture content. They are moving on opposite direction. The polar easterlies are moving towards the west because they are driven by easterlies, and then westerlies, they are moving towards the east because they are driven by westerlies. Remember, these two parcels of air, they have different air moisture content. So which means our fan, one is cold and then the other one is warm. So the polar easterlies, they are a bit warm, then westerlies, they are a bit cold. And then also sisakhona conditions for the formation of a mid-latitude cyclone. This is the area of the formation of the mid-latitude cyclone. So which means mid-latitude cyclone itholakala la, as you can see, the band of clouds. These are cumulonimbus clouds. So in this area here, because we've set this air here, as you can see the arrows, air red, they symbolizes umoya that is driven by easterlies, it's warm. And then umoya that is driven by westerlies is called, symbolized or shown by arrows. So here, ule pressure belts, air rises, the atmospheric pressure is low, climatic weather is low, is wet. The reason why we say it's wet is because you can see the clouds, they are visible there, cumulonimbus clouds, so they bring heavy rainfall. Okay, let us look at some stages that are there in the mid-latitude cyclone. It's very important, great to know the stages. So I will tell you later on which stages are more important than the others. So initial stage is just, they are showing you this is the start when the mid-latitude is starting. So pay careful attention la hectopascals. With hectopascals as you are moving from the top to the bottom, they are decreasing. What does it show? It shows this area where they are going, it has a low pressure. Kanjalo futhi nangala, you can see with hectopascals lana, and they are higher than here, so they are decreasing. We have 1008, and then as you go towards the center there, then it's decreasing to 1006. So in the center here, you will find a low pressure because so, and then if you pay careful attention again, you have westerlies that are driving these winds, so they are driving these winds, they are forcing them to go to the east. And then also you have polar easterlies that are driving winds towards the west, driven by easterlies. Remember, I've said grade 12, these two parcels of air, they have different air moisture content, and then they meet here but they do not mix. So this is stage number 2, where they tell you ukuthi since umoya oshisayo is lighter than umoya obandayo, and then umoya oshisayo will be driven up, so which means it will rise up. Remember, umoya obandayo, it's more denser than umoya oshisayo, so it will actually force this air here to be uplifted. So let's just look at stage number 3, which shows the matured stage, which shows ukuthi lento ade ngiyisho ekuqaleni ukuthi umoya obandayo is more faster and more heavier than cold air, so it will force it to actually lift up. So if once it has been lifted up, and then when I grade 12 ukuthi umoya oshisayo, once it has risen up, it will cause condensation to take place. The condensation will be in the form of clouds. So look at the spinning of this air. Umoya wako, excuse me, grade 12. So umoya wako around here, umoya wako is circulating, and when it circulates, remember we are in the southern hemisphere, so when the air is circulating around the low pressure, it will circulate on a clockwise direction, so which means umoya wako uzohamba kanye newash. And then you have ama-sectors awusuke manje la grade 12 khona kuyilento kwi-matured stage. At the top here we have a warm sector, and then at the bottom here we have a cold sector. La kwi-warm sector, remember ukuthi the air is uplifted, umoya uyanyuka, yabo, and then bese kufomeka ama-clouds again. So ama-clouds afomeka along the cold front. So types of clouds that will be found along the cold front will be cumulonimbus clouds. So in umsebenzi wakho ukuthi wazi grade 12 ukuthi what type of clouds are formed along the cold front is it's very important, because you need to know ukuthi cumulonimbus clouds are found here, or are formed, or are developed right here along the cold front. So these types of clouds, which are cumulonimbus clouds, they bring heavy rainfalls so into the area, and then ngala eceleni ngala nama-nimbus stratus clouds, nama-citrus clouds, So these types of clouds, they're not as intense as cumulonimbus clouds, because they bring much of a lighter rainfall as compared to cumulonimbus clouds. And then you have stage 4, which is an occluded stage. So here occlusion is taking place, whereby the cold front is undercutting the warm front at the apex, yes. So you can see, as I've said before, ukuthi umoya obandayo iwona ostrong, and then iwona osindayo, so it's chasing after a warm front, and then whatever is found here within the warm sector has been forced to be uplifted, yanyuka. And then also once it has undercuts, once it has undercuts, it called a warm front, and then the occlusion will actually take place. And then sibuele system in terms of the side views of a mid-latitude cyclone. Kuna cold front there that is chasing after, or just to remind you, learners, ukuthi cold front it has a steep gradient, pressure gradient. So if you were to see that, in terms of isobars along the pressure gradient abezoba close together, but ngali warm front has a gentle steep pressure gradient. So if you uzoyidweba in terms of isobars, then isobars akho abezoba far apart. So ngala we cold front isobars aba close together, which indicates the wind speed is greater, than as compared to the warm front. So as I said earlier on, grade 12, below here, we have the types of clouds along the cold fronts, which are called cumulonimbus clouds there. So these types of clouds, they bring heavy rainfalls into the area. So cold fronts, the pressure gradient force at cold fronts is steep, resulting in rapid upliftment of warm air. And then temperatures around this area, they decrease. They can even go to as below 0 degrees to minus, because they are going with the cold fronts. So possibilities of snowfalls are there. And then also a pressure decreases but increases with cold sector. And then also humidity here, it decreases. Cloud cover, it increases because we have cumulonimbus clouds that are there. And then chances of precipitation, which is the rainfall, they increase, which you can expect heavy rainfall as well as possibility of snowfalls. So due to veering and backing wind, direction changes, anti-clockwise, depending on which is the hemisphere, anti-clockwise in the southern hemisphere, and then about clockwise. Then backing cold air, it's actually advection, and then clockwise direction in the southern hemisphere. It's the other way around, northern hemisphere. It moves on the opposite direction. Then also around here, which you have the warm sector, we find that there's a decreasing in wind speed, and then warm conditions that are prevailing there, calmer conditions. Finding we call France, possibilities of drizzle or no rainfall at all, higher humidity because she is. And then around here, we have where there's warm front, pressure gradient, that's warm front, it's gently as well. And that is where you find the air that is rising along the front, And then this front here, which is a cold front, the temperature around here will increase because it's a warm front. Pressure decreases. There's humidity. The humidity here increases, so izinga lelento lokushisa lizonyuka. Cloud cover that you find right there is nimbus stratus, not cumulonimbus clouds anymore. Precipitation, you find soft, very soft rain or light rain that is taking place. And then here on our right hand side, Pezulu, top right, and then we can see clearly in mid-latitude cyclone, the side view of the tropical of mid-latitude cyclone, clouds developing along the cold fronts, and then you can see these are cumulonimbus clouds, and then we have clouds that are developing there next to the warm front, which are nimbostratus, altostratus, as well as masseterous clouds. Okay, let's just look when the occlusion takes place, with what exactly happens, which kwenzakalani. Remember, A is lifted, it's lifted up. Remember when I've said when the occlusion takes place, it's whereby the cold front undercuts a warm front and forcing whatever conditions that were there, which are warm conditions, to actually be uplifted. So you can see that okay, on my left hand diagram, it's starting to occlude mid-latitude cyclone. And then the full occluded stage has developed, which you can see the cold front has actually undercut a warm front. It has undercut the warm front. It's the apex. And then also, let's just look. Boxes like a look when you're writing your paragraph, depending on whether you are writing about the cold front occlusion or your warm front occlusion. So you need to know cold front occlusion results when the statistically more stable air is behind the cold front. So cold front undercuts the warm front. What happens to warm occlusion? Warm occlusion, it occurs when the cold front air behind the occluded front is warmer than the air ahead of it. So the warm front or the warm occlusion acts in a similar way to a warm front. So the cold air behind the cold front is less, behind the front is less dense than the even colder air ahead of it. Then so it passes over the top of the cold front. Then let us look at the very most, and I would say the most important thing about mid-latitude cyclone, grade 12. ama-social impacts, ama-impacts. We have, remember, ama-social impacts, we have ama-economic impacts, we have ama-environmental impacts. Let us look at the word igama elithi social impact, ukuthi ichaza social. Social, when you see this exam grade 12 for social, it has to do with abantu. So when you are writing a paragraph, please make sure with whatever points that you are writing, they revolve around abantu, impilo yabantu nje. Ukwazi ukwahlukanisa ama-social impacts, ukwazi ukwahlukanisa nama-economic impacts, ukwazi ukwahlukanisa nama-environmental. It's very, very important. Okay, let's just look at the first point, grade 12. Looking at the positive, remember, immediate latitude cyclone, that it brings rainfall, which will increase agricultural production, which will lead to more employment in the area. Remember to qualify all these points, grade 12. Remember to qualify all these points, because if you do not qualify these points, I don't know whether part marks will apply or not. But if they do apply part marks, then Magela, and if you say it brings more, it brings rainfall only, Magela, you bring more rainfall or bring just rainfall. And then if you qualify your point, which you say it will lead to an increase in agricultural production, and then you stand a chance for you to score 2 marks, which will lead to more employment. Okay, let's just look at point number 2. Increase in agricultural production, more food will be available. So we have food security. And then point number 3, employment improves quality of life. So this more rainfall will lead to more employment as a result of the increase in agricultural production. So increase in recreational facilities. Remember, those sports, sports lawa emanzini, yabo leyo nto. So if we have more water, then you have more chances of us, participating in those sports. Let's just look at the negatives. Sakubantu njalo ke grade 12. Ama-negative impacts of a mid-latitude cyclone. Okay, the first one, it will result in floods or flooding, which will damage properties. Remember, my properties are abantu, so athinta abantu. Point number 2, floods decrease accessibility to recreational facilities. So if there's flooding, too much water, then you cannot access those recreational facilities. You can't even take part in the sports. So lokho futhi kuthinta thina abantu. Then floods could result in loss of lives. So lokho ukhiye kahle kahle, to me, that is point number 1. Floods will result or could result in loss of life. Floods could damage crops, kill livestock, reduce amounts of food available. Remember, crops, grade 12, these are not natural. Crops are planted by people. That is why it's so fun. So livestock will be killed because we are the ones who are owning livestock. They reduce amounts of food that is available. So floods will lead to a decrease in production, agricultural production, let's call it. Then this will lead to the decrease in employment opportunities. Make sure you qualify all your points. Let's just look at the economic impact. How does mid-latitude cyclone affect the country? So mid-latitude cyclone brings more rainfall, which will increase the agricultural production, which will lead to more employment. An increase in agricultural production will lead to greater income to the area. And then also, these rainfalls, because we have more water now, it will improve aesthetic appeal. The vegetation will grow due to rainfall. Now it's rainfall when amanzi amaningi. Utshani kuyakhula kube kuhle, izihlahla zibe zinhle, and then also this may even result into snowfalls. The snowfalls will actually lead to the attraction of those tourists coming into our area. If they see and know, would say, oh, okay, there will be a snowfall in Cape Town, they will quickly rush into Cape Town just to experience snowfall. Then the last point, availability of water supply there will be availability of water supply for secondary as well as tertiary economic sectors. So in secondary, remember, it involves production. So you need water for your production to take place. Okay, let's just look at the negatives of a mid-latitude cyclone. Would say, what exactly can we say about the negatives of a mid-latitude cyclone we economy? So point number one, floods will decrease will lead to the decrease in agricultural production, which will result in an increase in unemployment. Floods or strong winds will damage infrastructure. Sikhuluma ama-bridge, sikhuluma ama-power lines, yonke into yabo. Point number three, floods restricts accessibility to tourist attractions, which will affect the tourism. So there are areas that you cannot access, they'll be restricted because of flooding. So if tourists are being restricted from accessing those areas, then they cannot spend more money. Last point, less production will lead to less less income to the area. So abantu ngeke behole imali if there's less production. Okay. Let me just introduce you to a tropical cyclone. Tropical cyclone, looking at some general characteristics akhona. Under this topic, the areas of formation and associated terms in different parts of the world, associated weather patterns, cross-section through a tropical cyclone. Look at some impacts of human activities. So geography, social and economic. That is why we say it's socio-economic. And also we'll be looking at the environmental impacts. So if you notice, angazi ngifake i-environment lapha phezulu latitude cyclone, but you know exactly ukuthi under environmental impacts that includes soil erosion, storm surge, trees will be uprooted, vegetation will be washed away. Sikhuluma ngayo yonke into edalwe uNkulunkulu. So make sure that you qualify all your points njalo grade 12. Okay. Now, tropical cyclone, kunamagama khona, alternative names of a tropical cyclone. The first one is a hurricane, which is found in the northern Atlantic, with typhoon, North Pacific, and then lies South Africa, cyclones and tropical cyclones. So tropical cyclones develop at the ITCZ, and it develops between 5 degrees as well as 25 degrees, both north and south. And adinga i-Coriolis force ama-tropical cyclone in order to develop. So the reason why engadevelop lapha ku-0 degrees is because there is an absence of i-Coriolis force lapha along the line of the equator. And then Coriolis force causes deflection of winds and allow the creation of a cyclonic vortex. Coriolis force will cause the wind to spiral or to move around towards the low pressure. So this intensifies the low pressure to such an extent that a clear funnel pattern down, which is called the eye of a cyclone, develops. So it is an intense tropical cyclone. This is an intense low pressure storm which causes a lot of wind and flood damage. Tropical cyclone only forms under very specific conditions. And in South Africa, a tropical cyclone, it forms during summer and it's more intense during late autumn. Okay, tropical cyclone, they are named alphabetically, depending on which how many have occurred. Nakala N, go Anna, bo Betty, the list goes on and on. It goes alphabetical. So you as a grade 12 male was with J. A tropical cyclone Obeni, Betty, tropical cyclone Namabani, because UP alphabet number 2. So you need to know okay, tropical number 2. And then if they ask you how many have occurred before Benny or Betty, and then you say it's 1 because A or Lapayan or N. So the main source of energy is latent. It needs latent heat, which will result from cooling and condensation of rising air. Remember, tropical cyclone is okay in the tropical regions over warm ocean water, It moves from east to west. That is very important. And then lastly, it originates in summer and late summer, uh, and it needs an ocean temperature of at least 26 degrees, 5 phezulu. So these are your cyclones around the world. Remember, anamagama around the world, you will notice and you will remember with in Australia they are called willy willies. La South South Africa or tropical cyclone. Lego North America they are called hurricanes. So conditions necessary for the formation of a tropical cyclone. It needs large sea surface with temperature of higher than 26.5 degrees. You need the presence of a Coriolis force. Remember, I've said it helps to deflect the air and it helps the air to spin around, creating what you call a cyclonic vortex. And then also small variation in the vertical wind speed that is needed, a pre-existing weak low pressure area or low level cyclonic circulation. We need upper divergence above the sea level system. Okay, let's just look at the stages of them. Okay, the first one being the initial stage. You can see with the hectopascals asagubani are above, way above 1000. And then stage number 2, which is immature stage. So sorry, formation stage number 1, number 2 immature stage. And then iyaqala ke lento yethu iyadissipate, iyaqala iyehla ama hectopascals ethu. As you can see, it's gone below 1000 now. And then kwi-mature stage la kwenzakala khona yonke into ke, it's very important ukusazi lesi stage grade 12. Ama-hectopascals have gone well below 1000 hectopascals. And then the last stage is dissipating, which is the dying stage, is degenerating stage. So there's an active quadrant right here. Show you there's an active quadrant here in this area, which you need to know as a grade 12 learner would say. This area here, isn't zenzeka. There's strong winds and heavy rainfall. That's one you need to know. That's the formation stage. In the formation stage, the cyclone has very strong and abrupt and low pressure. It intensifies. The cyclone is not very large, yet there's no clear eye. So the eye is not visible. The wind starts to spiral, so which means it's starting to spin. The uyazi kakhulu nje i-pressure laphayana is starting, it's way below, it's way above basically inland in 1000 millibars. Okay, let me just run through my stages. There's the immature stage. You can see which there's very strong abrupt state. Then also the pressure is increasing, it's dropping now below 1000 millibars. And then mature state, which is very, very important. High pressure gradient is very strong, and then the wind speed starts to be greater. Then the eye is visible, it's very calm, and then the pressure is well below 1000 millibars. And then also the diameter, you need to know which covers the diameter of 300, 12, with an active quadrant here, which is very, very, we have an intense weather system, strong winds, as well as heavy rainfall. So the system is moving on the east-west direction, driven by the easterly winds, and then there's lower pressure that is taking place, and then this is a dissipating stage, whereby the cyclone is dying out now. So it's just, the system is dropping, and hectopascals are starting to go back to above 1000, starting also, sorry, the cyclone is starting to move, going to a cooler subtropical areas, and then the weather clears up and everything. So ngicela nje grade 12 ukushiya kula ma-stages lawa esengiwashilo, sibe sicabangela nje ukuthi okay, now since we've spoke about social impacts, economic impacts, nama-environmental impacts, imaphi ama-impacts here that would be associated with the tropical cyclone? Mina I always say ayafana, cishe fana. cishe nje ifane. So ngicela nje uzenzele before nje we continue with our revision next time grade 12, ngicela nje senze kanjalo-ke. So grade 12, ngibonga kakhulu ngesikhathi senu. Uma ninama-questions, please feel free to click there ku-YouTube wakho, ku-Facebook wakho, and amalenta ama-messages. Send all your messages that you think you are not clear, ama-areas that you are not clear about, so that we can answer you. So ngiyabonga kakhulu grade 12, nibe nemini emnandi, simbone esikhathi sizayo.